Welcome and thanks for joining us. In this episode of the Changing Lives podcast, we talk to Ken Cosgrove, a former accountant and current urban search and rescue volunteer. Now in his 60s, Ken recently completed a Diploma of Paramedical Science to extend his years of service with the international rescue team Gift of the Givers, who respond to some of the world's most horrific disasters in significantly under-resourced areas. In our discussion, Ken shares some of the most impactful stories from the field, as well as an inspiring perspective on how success in business left him with a mandate to give back both locally and abroad.
There's a lot of people who need a lot, and one of the big things, I still believe in that old adage that of those who have much, much shall be expected, and it's not necessarily financially. If you go to other countries where there are issues and disasters, you find by and large they need time and they need people and manpower. So you can't do that either if you don't have the skills.
We hope you enjoy this insightful and uplifting episode of Changing Lives, brought to you by the Australian Paramedical College. Alrighty, excellent. So entering study at 60 plus years of age, which some would say, oh, that's too late, or I can't do that, particularly online learning. Oh, me and computers, oh, they just don't mix, that's the biggest barrier, I think.
Well, look, I must admit, I did have reservations, and I think it was a case of the way it happened at the time. Obviously, I was previously a USAR technician, being urban search and rescue, and we'd been dispatched to Nepal. And obviously rescue is over within 48 hours, but you're there. So then you start to participate with the medical crew. And I realized it was enjoyable, rewarding. And I thought maybe this is what I needed to do. I mean, I looked at it and I looked at the different courses, and they were all around about 4 years in duration. And I thought, wow, it's my age now to do 4 years. And I'm used to studying because I do have a master's degree behind me. But 4 years now is a long time. And then I saw the college adverts, pursued it. And obviously my first interaction going over to the college was quite interesting because I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to be this old guy in the class. And it turned out there was another guy with the name Ken as well, who was actually a year older than me. So we became Ken 1 and Ken 2. So I think something else I have to acknowledge, and that is you come to Australia, I don't think that people realize it here. Your opportunity and your ability to reinvent yourself is phenomenal. It really is. And probably the most interesting thing that struck me is age isn't a barrier in Australia. It really isn't. From the rest of the world, my experiences have been that there comes a point where you have to move on. Whereas Australia, they actually encourage you. So I found it very pleasant. I really did. Most enjoyable. And funny enough, some of the younger students there kept me very much alive. That was really the start of it. I have this thing that, you never stop seeking knowledge. You must always be looking for knowledge. It still is the basis of everything. If you want to get anywhere, you need knowledge. And then more importantly, look, I've been very fortunate. I struck out, obviously, in my own business. And I was very fortunate in that it worked. And you realize it's because of community. Without a community, you don't have a business. And then you realize that there's a lot of people who need a lot. And one of the big things, I still believe in that old adage that of those who have much, much shall be expected. And it's not necessarily financially. If you go to other countries where there are issues and disasters, you find by and large they need time and they need people and manpower. So you can't do that either if you don't have the skills. So it struck me that there is a certain amount of being mercenary to it. You're obviously getting personal satisfaction, but hopefully somebody else is benefiting out of it. So it becomes a win-win. So I just looked at it and I thought, this is something I could do. And I think certainly, hopefully, it will work well with the international rescue team that I work with. I enjoy the interaction with them. So what it did is extended my life with them. So it's given me another 4 years at this stage already, and I believe it'll still probably give me another 5 to 7 years. So yeah, that was the main reason behind it.
So what I'm hearing is your decision to study, but also study in this field. It was an opportunity to better yourself, but also this is an opportunity too where I can actually better other people's lives.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us more about what you're doing now.
Well, at the moment, I'm still obviously tied up with the International Rescue Team, which is the gift of the givers. It's a South African-based team. An exceptionally good humanitarian team. They're made up of, they do humanitarian things, in other words, feeding. They go to absolutely any disaster. They go in force. They're non-discretionary, so they don't look to see whether it's faith-based, nationality-based, race-based. They go. They normally send a primary rescue team goes out. Then after that, a full medical team of surgeons. So, for example, the Nepal rescue with the earthquake, we arrived there, we were 60 surgeons, 20 rescue technicians, and 10 paramedics. So they run hospitals, get in there and do absolutely everything that's needed. And invariably, once we go back, all the equipment and everything gets left behind, so it can be used there. And so it's a big setup. It really is a wonderful organization, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm still with them. So, for example, last year, October, I was in South Africa at the time of the Indonesian earthquake and tsunami. So we got shipped out for that. And again, a large team. And it's you know what, like I said to you, it's mercenary. It's very rewarding when you get back from it. Maybe I must send it to you. I did write an article after one of them because of the experience. And to say, yeah, probably, because you know, a whole life in a period of 2 weeks, because you never go more than 2 weeks, but you'll experience absolutely everything that you can experience in one lifespan, you'll experience in that 2 weeks. Working with the injured in Nepal, the situation there in hospitals, they were terrible. I was given 5 post-surgery patients to look after from the perspective of wound care. They're all children. And that was... yeah, emotionally very rewarding. And I think you just see how desperate some people's situations are, their circumstances. So yeah, you get a lot of reward out of that. Yeah. Forgive me. Yeah, it was probably one of my better times, because you see, unfortunately, you also, in those scenarios, you see a lot of tragedy, a lot of death, and really bad situations. There were again probably the most not traumatic, but just something that you look at and you say, wow, where you can't even do body recovery or retrievals because the disaster is that bad. So when you do have the experience, like for me, that one in Nepal with the kids, that was phenomenal. In Australia now, obviously, I'm working with St. John's. I'm doing my volunteer shifts for them. So it actually gets you into the community because you're interacting with people and the issues. So, and both young, old, everything. So it's a good thing. It's good for me. It's good for my family. And I like to believe it's good for the community.
So that's potentially an opportunity for those people any age who are developing their skills pre-hospital and they want to go on careers or whatever, and they'll go on to further study maybe, but they also are looking for that outlet to really make the world a better place as well. That's potentially an opportunity there. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits. I think, yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only so-called, I can't be called a grey nomad for obvious reasons. But if I look at a lot of the grey nomads who are looking for something in their lives, there's certainly, this can be it. There's no doubt. Keeping them active, keeping them involved in community. And I think the community would appreciate it. For the younger set, volunteerism is a big thing I've noticed in Australia. And I've noticed on the ambulance service here that there's a lot of youth. So they might as well go and get the skill to go along with it. And I would certainly advocate it. You can go through the different organizations and get some basic training. But if you're in the position or financial position that you can upskill further, it's always worth having a little bit more skill than what you require, because what you require then becomes a little bit easier. And especially you can get a better understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So yes, I would advocate it. And again, there's only benefit from education. You'll never lose. Education is always good and is never lost, and at any age, that's for sure. You know, like you spoke about the age earlier on. I was amazed at how much easier it was studying now as opposed to when I was a youngster. Because when you're a youngster, you're studying to a cause, a goal, right? An end point. Whereas now you're studying more for the actual knowledge. So there's a huge advantage in it, definitely.
Great. So it was thorough enough knowledge-wise, but also the practical applications at the workshops, they held you in good stead to be able to apply that in the real world.
Absolutely. There is absolutely no doubt about it. We were doing a training funny enough, post college. I was in South Africa, and we've got a primary response rescue team. And we were just doing a training session. And so the whole team was there, and we were doing some high angle work. And we then went back to one of my offices just to go through it all and to just sort of debrief on the day's training. And we were sitting there. So we had all our kit and equipment and everything. And a call came through to say that a bridge had collapsed over an 8-lane highway. And so we immediately dispatched, no uniforms or anything like that, because we were just in loose kit. We arrived on scene, and it was absolutely tragic. I mean, a couple of 100 tons of steel bridge had collapsed on cars. And we were the most competent team there. So it went from the training session straight into a live rescue. And we spent must have been some 8-9 hours working on this. That went live internationally on all the news because it was a big disaster. Another thing that is true, does it help you for the youngsters going ahead to go off to, as you call it, uni? We would call varsity. Two fellow students that I had at the college have both gone through, and one finished her degree end of last year and the other one finishes her degree this year. They certainly got credits at the university, and it helped them to gain access because the universities are pretty full. So it definitely got them. And then the one little student actually arrived in South Africa to get some experience and worked on the road there and got some really good experience. And she acquitted herself very well. The company that she worked for was very impressed with her work and knowledge. So, yeah, it's a good stepping stone from that point of view as well.
There's two things there you talked about that really inspire me. You've kept in contact with students that you've met in your study of essentially an online course. So it's amazing the sort of the sense of community there that you've been able to make with students, young and old. And then the other thing is the pathway that you've seen other students step from their training to university and now in their careers. That's really positive.
Yes, it works. Absolutely. I mean, as I say, I look at these two. and they're both going off now into a career in the paramedic world. And both have done very well.
What would you say to someone maybe in your similar position with that thought that I'm kind of past study now, but you've done it, and you've even done an online course with intensive practical training. What sort of tips would you give them, or what sort of motivation would you give someone?
It sounds daft. Just decide to do it, make the decision, and then get on with it. We tend to procrastinate and worry too much about, am I going to be this old guy there? Am I going to have a lot of youngsters literally having a go at me? No, they don't. They're actually very supportive. And you in turn are finding that you're supporting them. I'm finding exactly the same thing working right now on the road with St. John's. I'm probably one of the older volunteers, but the interaction that I'm having with the people there is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I had a very pleasant situation yesterday. We had a CVA patient, and I had a new young volunteer on the crew. And afterwards, she was at the stage where the career paramedic had said, we need to now split you up because this young lass now needs to start working on her own. And she said she was distressed. She said she wants to rather keep working as the team because we support each other well. So there's a place for everybody, and the community needs it. So no, it's definitely not the time. It's the time to make up your mind and go. And to the extent, though, I think, quite honestly, you can follow it. I've enjoyed it enough that I'm actually contemplating picking up and converting over and following the pathway and doing the extra 2 years, probably in a couple of months' time, and doing the B degree as well. It's piqued my interest enough and stimulated the desire for the knowledge, just to understand. I mean, I'm an accountant by training. In education. So, this is very different and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So yeah, step out. It's worthwhile. It really is.
Mate, I know you don't probably want to hear this, but you're an inspiration. And so I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat. It's been really, really good. And just to hear from your perspective, I think it will help a lot of students and inspire them.
If it helps to motivate somebody in the younger age to go out there and get the knowledge and information and to build a career, I would be very, very pleased that it has had that impact. And to any older person who is looking for something to do, essentially to give back or to just feel the reward or feel wanted to feel needed, go out there, because I promise you, in doing it, somebody else is going to benefit, which I think is a good thing. I really do. If we all in our own little micro way make a contribution, in the macro world is going to change. And I think, if I just look at all the issues we've got, I think it's incumbent on all of us to just do something in our own way. I really do. And I think everybody will gain. There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt.
Thanks, mate. It's been great having you on. Thanks again.
Nice to have met you, Ben.